People will yell at me and say I'm wrong for this and say classic socialist doesn't know enough about the economy. And I agree. Did you see this crazy inflation TikTok?
I just looked through my Walmart history and I found this Walmart order from 2 years ago for the whole month worth of groceries. 45 items cost $126. A whole month of groceries just for me, basically. But I did notice this reorder all button, and I wanted to see how much it would cost now. Now, this order of 45 items for 1 month would have cost $414. That is...
I've been telling people, do not believe the government when they say inflation's only 8 or 10%. Food's gone up double, triple. That's over 100%. Whoever's doing the inflation numbers, liars.
It's not just groceries, man. What the f is he talking about? There's also a shit ton of junk fees that a lot of online delivery services have added over the course of the past couple of years. One thing I will tell you, for example, if you ever order Uber Eats and you happen to actually go to the restaurant that you normally order Uber Eats from, look at the prices inside the restaurant versus look at the prices for the same items on Uber Eats. The prices on Uber Eats are much higher. If you go to the restaurant directly, it's cheaper. I'm talking about the same exact thing. This is before the delivery fees. This is before all the other additional fees tacked onto it. A lot of people don't even know that. And the same goes for Amazon as well. Bro, Uber Eats is a luxury. Ain't no everyday man using that. The example that we're looking at is literally Amazon delivery, dog. What the f are you talking about? That's the reason why I'm using the Uber Eats example. Even if you pick up through Uber Eats, it's still more expensive. Yes. Or it was Walmart, sorry, not Amazon. But still, that's online delivery, online grocery delivery. So there's probably a bunch of additional junk fees associated with that purchase now, beyond the fact that Amazon has also tacked up the prices. Labor economist, she's chill on today's rate cuts.
Points. What does this mean? Is it good? Here's my quick reaction. Still a little gussied up from being on TV where I was talking about exactly this, so I hope you appreciate the extra effort. But basically, the Fed started raising interest rates in March of 2022 to battle inflation. They raised rates 11 times since then, but for about a year and a half now, they've been held at around 5%. And the question was, when is the Fed going to cut? Well, they were waiting for prices to fall sufficiently to feel that the threat of inflation had been contained. Now,
if only there was another deflationary mechanism, beyond monetary policy. I can't really think of any alternatives. Can you guys? Is there anything else other than monetary policy to engage in any sort of deflationary mechanism? Oh, that's right. It's called fiscal policy. That's the other side of this process that is oftentimes forgotten. Well, fiscal policy requires legislative action. And obviously, when the legislative branch of the government is completely gutted and obstructionist policies, obstructionist principles from one party or the other, especially when it comes to deflationary mechanisms, which would probably increase taxes, for example, or even any kind of anti-capitalist measures in terms of this could be, I guess, the federal agencies engaging in antitrust initiatives. It could mean like I said, it could mean increasing taxes. It can even mean something like instituting price controls, all that sort of stuff. When neither party has the appetite to push for these kinds of bold, radical ideas, and neither party actually ever gets punished for being obstructionist. And by neither party, I mean the Republicans don't ever get punished for being obstructionist. Obviously, there's no alternative. The only thing you have in your hands, the only thing that remains is monetary policy, because it's not controlled technically by anything but, I guess, market pressure, market movements. There's no direct government intervention there. So that's the only tool that the American government has to deal with such a thing, to deal with inflation. I mean, if it were left up to Trump, he would also take over that part as well.
Now that prices are at 2.5%, as we found out last month, it feels like we reached that milestone. But in the meantime, the labor market has been showing more and more signs of distress. Unemployment rate has been rising for about a year. And ever since the Fed started raising interest rates way back in March of 22, hiring has fallen. And pretty much every month since then, the number of people.
Fiscal policies sound a bit neoliberal. What? No, it's just what are you talking about? That's just simply the term for it. Fiscal policies are policies that the government has at its disposal to engage in inflationary or deflationary mechanisms. And it's a broad range of things that the legislative body could do or the federal regulatory agencies could do. Whereas monetary policy is in the hands of the Fed. That's it. It's a generic term. It's not like neoliberal.
Hired into a new job, and the rate of hiring in our economy has been falling, getting to dangerously low levels that would indicate recession. Of course, the only reason why we're not in a recession is because layoffs have not ticked up at all, meaning that most employers are holding on to the employees they have, but they're not quickly expanding their payrolls. It's a really tenuous time for the labor market. The question for today was, how much are they going to cut rates by? If it was 50 points versus 25 points, really signals how committed the Fed is to the labor market. 50 points is what I thought the data suggested and what I had just said on TV, that if you look at hiring, if you look at the number of jobs added, if you looked at the change in the unemployment rate, the Fed has little room for maneuvering here. They have to cut by 50 just to make sure that they telegraph to everyone that the labor market matters and that what workers are going through matters. Employers have made it through this fight against inflation without cutting jobs, but we don't know how much longer they're going to wait to do that. So this was a good signal. A lot of people thought maybe they would go for 25 instead. The reason for that, though, was not so much about data as it was narrative. If they go by 50, does it look like they're helping Kamala? If they go by 50, does it look like they're actually panicking? If they go by 50, is that just because what the market wants? The data indicated they should cut by 50. The narrative indicated that they might cut by 25, but they went with 50. I'm really happy they did. It's going to show kind of an immediate effect in interest rates. The stock market's probably going to go up by a lot to the extent that that matters to you. But it's a really good signal to send to employers that borrowing is about to become cheaper. And hopefully they're going to respond by expanding their payrolls because that is what the labor market needs right now.
But I thought they were hiring a lot. I just don't understand it. Not these last round of jobs numbers, which caused the Fed to respond in the way that they did. But for the past couple of years, we've been hearing that like hiring is back on the menu. There's so many readily available jobs out there. The situation in the job market is so dire that it led to like people considering a new term, I guess, or maybe it was an old term. It's new to me. Ghost jobs. The notion that like a company wants to make it seem like they're hiring as though they're expanding, but they're not actually hiring. Low paying jobs are open. Mid to high paying jobs aren't. I think a lot of this stuff is just fake in general. Because of the financialized aspect of our entire economy, it's more so just about like confidence in a stock, and the way that most corporations move is not about like widget factory and who gets to produce those widgets any longer. This is your output, this is your revenue, and this is the operational cost. It's not like that. It's more so just confidence. People will yell at me and say I'm wrong for this and say classic socialist doesn't know enough about the economy, and I agree. Certainly not my strong suit. Looking for work is a struggle, and headhunters are making it even harder. More than 8 in 10 recruiters say they post ghost jobs. Jesus Christ. But hey, if the company has job openings, that kind of cuts away at the layoff and the impact that the layoffs might have. It just simply looks like they're restructuring, you know? It just simply looks like they are restructuring. So it's not as bad as like the company's actually doing horribly. So it's probably a way to withstand additional market scrutiny. No, they fire the high salaried employees and hire at lower salaries. They don't even do that. With the way technological improvements work, and especially with like additional pressure attached to your loss of job in the United States of America, which implies that you'll lose in many instances your visa status if you're if you're a visa employee, or your health care, or paying off your debts that you have incurred in an effort to become a more productive member of the labor force for a crumb of potential upward social mobility. The real fear, due to having no safety nets that will catch you if you fall, Americans can be forced to work two people's jobs. You can be as productive as two employees would be. This allows companies to engage in layoffs. There's also offshoring. There's also AI. At my current job, they did layoffs and basically laid a bunch of people off, opened a bunch of job postings that they obviously have no interest in filling. It's been months, and they're just ramping up the burden on individuals. Yeah. Corporations will do this. It's called eliminating redundancies in corporate speak. But the elimination of redundancies do not always reflect positively in your stock prices. Usually does though. But in an effort to offset any kind of like negative consequences that you might incur on your stock prices, then you make it seem like you're expanding. This is one of the problems that many labor unions engage with. Specifically, one example I'll use is nursing unions. Nurses unions oftentimes will either go on strike due to the fact that both in the UK and also in the United States of America, nursing unions regularly go and demonstrate or go on strike all around the country. The reason for why they do that, or the demands that they have usually, is to hire more nurses, okay? Because nurses are overworked. They can't get paid leave. They can't get time off. And the nurse-to-patient ratio goes up. Or sorry, the patient-to-nurse ratio goes up year over year. This also obviously makes their output worse in general. If you're a nurse and you're taking care of 4 patients as opposed to now 10 patients, you're going to do a better job taking care of 4 patients. Okay? If the hospital network, which is what they usually do for the record, if the hospital network looks at that and goes, "Oh, you guys are striking? Okay, we're going to hire more traveling nurses. We're going to get scabs and we're going to weather this storm," which is what many hospitals do. Inevitably, you'll be forced back into making shittier concessions, not getting even half of the demands that you've made, and getting the back to work. Hospitals would rather spend a ton more on traveling nurses than actually give the existing full-time nurses in their staff the very reasonable demands that they make. This is just one aspect of the labor force, but it happens everywhere. A lot of people are asking for more people to be hired. Why are they asking for more people to be hired while keeping the pay rates the same or maybe a little bit better? It's because they want like less of a workload. This is one of the unnoticed aspects, which is why a lot of leftists will look at productivity and then compare it to wage stagnation. Because in comparison to productivity skyrocketing over the course of the last 30, 40 years, wages have remained completely stagnant. And in the process, when productivity goes up, but wages remain stagnant, profits go up. And when profits go up, there's more cash on hand for companies to engage in what used to be illegal, but is now totally legal and valid. What used to be considered market manipulation, but is now totally invalid, stock buybacks. And if they're not going to do stock buybacks, oftentimes they'll invest in R&D. But that R&D under normal conditions is supposed to make it easier. It's supposed to lighten the burden of the existing labor force. But all of that money that goes into R&D, that goes into automation, will actually be used to reduce the size of the labor force, because if you have better technological improvements in your productive output, you can simply make 3 guys do the work that previously 10 guys used to do. This is how it works. What's the point of these fake job offers then? Fake job offers simply make it seem as though the company is not in a dire circumstance. Makes it seem like the company is still growing. Makes it seem like there's still, the company's still generating better revenue than projected, and that they need more people to come in and work. It's a way to improve their standing in the market. It's a form of market manipulation. Basically, everything is a form of market manipulation.